we always talk about the early church. We're always trying to connect congregations, followers of Jesus, to look at the early church and being like, look, these guys were just like you and me. And yet when I've talked to young people, to be fair, older people, there can be this disconnect that happens with just tunics and sandals.
Paul, I want you to explain. Tell me, you got a new series coming out. It's on Angel. It's called Testament. Tell me, first of all, a little bit about it, but then what inspired you to create it?
Sure. Okay. Well, Testament is the story of the book of Acts. We start in Acts chapter 2, day of Pentecost, which is fitting for our official release date being the day of Pentecost, which I quite love that could coincide. And we tell the story of the early church, but we do it in a little bit of a different way, and dare I say, a bit of a bold way. We're telling the story in this alternate modern world. So there are modern costumes, there are cars, there are trains, modern buildings. Although it is a little different to what you might see every day. There is no digital revolution. So there are no mobile phones, there are no emails, there are no computers. And that's so we can stick to the integrity of the story. I don't think you can tell the book of Acts with a digital revolution. Otherwise, Paul's first letter to the Corinthians becomes his first draft email that's been forwarded many times, and it doesn't have the same kind of analog threat level that it has. But in terms of why, really the heart came about telling stories in modern ways. Is really because. So I've had the privilege to preach a few times at my church and other places, but also when I listen to sermons, we always talk about the early church. We're always trying to connect congregations, followers of Jesus, to look at the early church and being like, look, these guys were just like you and me. And yet when I've talked to young people, to be fair, older people, there can be this disconnect that happens with just tunics and sandals. As much as I love tunics and sandals, I love them so much. They're cool. But there is a disconnect. And so the heart of it is to try and bring the story, whilst retaining the same story, as close to us now as possible. To go, hey, I can see myself in Peter. I can see myself in Mary Magdalene. I can see myself in John Zebedee. That's the goal of the show, really.
That's really cool, man. And yeah, it's got such a really cool modern feel to it. But and I got to see the first episode. But it hooks you. It hooks you really well. Tell me, Paul, what did God teach you through the filming of this and creating this? Anything new?
There was a in the writing process. I had the privilege of getting to write it with my wife Faith and my brother-in-law, her brother Kenneth. And in the writing of this, we had to interrogate the Book of Acts in a real quite, in a way to try and, when you're trying to approach things from characters' perspectives, it means you've got to look at their motivations, you've got to look at how they might have done something, why they might have done something. And in doing that, obviously I know this already, but it's wonderful to have experienced it. Goodness, the Bible stands up. It just, you can interrogate this thing. And from I trained as an actor, and my wife and brother, they're actors as well. So we approach things from character perspectives. And putting that psychology on all these people and what they might have done or must have done. It's just wonderful to see that this story just holds up. Obviously it's not a learning thing, but wonderful to be able to, without having to write a huge book on it, to experience that. In the making of it is, and especially in the development when we were doing read-throughs, is the wonder of the Holy Spirit. In the sense of how he is so awesome, powerful, and when you talk about fear of the Lord, there are stories in the book of Acts which, my goodness, have that so much. At the same time as being joyful, fun, and bringing all the fruits of the Spirit. And often you see one of two of these, shown. But we really had, I keep on using the word privilege because I just feel like that's what it
Mm.
is. To be able to explore, elements of who the Holy Spirit is, of
Yeah.
this character in a way that is at times terrifying, is at
Yeah.
times challenging and bold, and at times is just wonderful and fun. And yeah, that was a beautiful thing to experience.
Now I grew up as I was in the music world for a while, so I'm a big music fan. It seems as though I don't know this, so I'm going out on a whim because I saw this on the credits. It sounds like it's original music, if I'm
Yeah.
correct in that you're kind of doing. And is it your wife? Did she write some of that? At least the
Yeah.
first song that I heard, and that's a hooky song. I like it. So I wanted to. Is that true?
Yeah, it is. We had so the composer is Ed Watkins, and the mad story about that is that when I moved to England and I was going to secondary school, I sat next to this guy on my way to school every single day, and we talk film music. And so this relationship has been around since we were 13, 14 years old, and he's composed everything that I've ever made. So his talent just abounds. And so his score is, yeah, it's all original. But
Yeah.
then for this song that appears at the end of episode one,
Hmm.
um, we were using this when you are scoring or in the edit, you often use temp tracks, so it's something to as placeholders, this kind of feel. And we had this placeholder, and it was good, but it wasn't right, and we were getting closer and closer to the deadline, and we were like, oh, we've got to write something at some point. And Faith just comes around the corner and goes, I think I have it, and just sings this thing, and I'm like, oh, great. The whole thing was done and produced and written in the space of like under 2 weeks.
Oh, that's cool.
We were up against the deadline. And yeah, I think she's completely smashed out of the park.
Yeah,
It is
it's
a
great.
catchy song.
It is. It's great. I loved it, and I was like, man, where's that? I got to see where that song's at. And I looked it up. I'm like, that's got to be his wife. That's got to be his wife. So that's
Yeah,
awesome, man. I love
it
that.
is.
What's your hope when audiences watch this? What's your hope that they take away from?
Um, well, it depends who's watching, I guess. We've made this show really with two audiences in mind and on purpose. One is people who are already following Jesus, people who love the Bible, who love the story. But um, I guess for me, I remember once I did a sermon for my church, and I decided to play a little trick on them, and I did the story of Abednego, Meshach, and Shadrach. Now, if you're a follower of Jesus and you're familiar with the story, you might have realized that I've said those names in a different order. And it's an order that you've never heard before because it always gets done the same way. And I genuinely saw the whole congregation sit up and go, what is he talking about? I changed nothing. I just changed the order of the names of how they were said. But it suddenly re-engaged them with the same story. Because often we go, oh, I know that story. I'll sit back. I won't engage because we think we know it. And we don't. That's the beautiful thing about the Bible,
Mm,
that hermeneutical cycle. Every time you read it, you are transformed by the word, and you're reading it then again, a new person. And so that's the aim with this show for followers of Christ is to go, hey, why don't you re-engage with the story? And if you think something that is like, oh, they shouldn't have done that, should have done this. Great, you've re-engaged and you've interrogated your faith, interrogated that moment, and so that's my hope for followers of
yeah.
Jesus. But for people who aren't or who are exploring, I think it's to show that the Bible is exciting. That the stories in the Bible. I was going to say the New Testament, but let's be fair, some of those Old Testament ones are
Yeah.
real blockbusters. Sure, it's not written as a novel. The writers aren't Stephen King. The writers are, first century Jewish
Hmm.
writers and earlier. But there is tension, there is drama, there is thrill, there is excitement. You just have to learn how to read it in a different way. So if this can be, Paul writes about milk and meat. If this can be the milk for someone, we often talk about it should be meat, but actually let's not forget the milk too. If this can be the milk for some people, hey, I'm happy with that. Let's plant some
That's
seeds.
great.
Someone else does the watering. God gives the growth.
That's great, man. Well, brother, this has been an honor. When's it come out? How can we watch it?
It comes out June 8th, Pentecost 2025. We're dropping episode 1 and 2 on that day, and you can watch it on the Angel Studios app. So if you head over to angel.com/testament, that's all the information will be there.
It's great. And how many episodes in total? Is it 8, 10?
8 episodes, yeah.
8.
And
Great.
we're planning for a multi-season show, so we've written things that, some things do not get resolved because we're planning it for a future season. So God willing, there's more seasons.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you for what you do. You got to go watch this. It is very good. It will keep you. The whole family can watch, and it's fun, but it's suspenseful, and like you say, it's kind of like it's like let me think about that. That's really cool, and a very modern day feel, which you know could even be telling a little bit of what could be coming. Of some of the stuff. Yeah. So I appreciate you, Paul. Thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Thank you, Jesse. Thanks so much.